Hey, it's your favorite fashion designer, MajeedaMonae, here with her first tutorial on the bubble coat, the puffer coat, whatever you want to call it, the jacket. So tune in for this video. This is part one of a two-part series of Sew Along with Majeeda on the bubble coat. Stay tuned.
Madman out and stunting. Kyle them tick like dumpling. Girl with big booty jumping. Action ready for the thumping. Fresh like Portland.
So when you're watching this video, I go over how I assemble jackets, my foundation, what MajeedaMonae does. So if you're a designer, creative, whatever, hobbyist, I believe patterns and people techniques are something to give you a structure. But when you're an amazing designer, creative, I think once you own things and twerk them and create them to create your own, it's like, when you feel confident in the patterns, you kind of take these and do what they do. So I don't want to tell people the right or wrong thing. I'm just telling you how I achieve my greatness and what I do to make my coats. So I hope this information helps you out. So we're going to go over the pattern pieces because it comes with a lot of pattern pieces, but I don't use them all, but we're going to go over all the pattern pieces and what I don't use and what I do use. Front facing piece. This is very important, especially when you're constructing it. I realized that the hard way because when you put snaps and zippers, it gives you definitely an extra layer under to secure the front part where you snap. I'll show you it when I show you the examples of the coats. What I mean by that. I do use that now. The collar piece. The collar piece that it comes, I use the collar. Every collar that you see, for my example, I use the collar piece. The back, this is the front piece. I definitely use the front piece. And, the collar piece that I use, I cut out one of the collar and one of the lining. The front piece, I use the front. I cut out one of the front and one of the lining. Meaning I put this out and I cut it twice. So whatever your front fabric is, you cut out one of the top fabric, and whatever your lining fabric is, you cut out that one. If you're using a cheap fabric, I'm gonna go over at the end. I'm gonna finish explaining. The back part, you cut it on the fold again, and you cut on the fold. You're gonna cut one of the outer fabric and one of the lining fabric of the back fabric piece cut on the fold. Gonna get into the sleeve. My sleeve, I extend my sleeves. So how I extend my sleeves, because when you start adding stuffing and your pattern, it gets a little smaller. The pattern is used for batting, so batting is not that frilly, but with polyfill, when you're making a bubble coat or a real puffer coat, I believe you call them bubble. I call them bubble because they're more rounder, and the puffer you use batting because it's more flatter for me. So I think that's why I call it a bubble coat. But yeah, so for mine, I just extend a little space. What I do to extend this pattern is I put it on top of a larger sheet of paper, pattern paper. I extend it 2 inches on the left side, 2 inches from the right, and from under the underarm, I just connect it. So at the bottom, I'm extending 2 inches on the left, 2 inches from the right, tape it down to a larger piece of paper, and draw the line from the underarm, connecting it to the 2-inch extension. That's it. Do that on both sides. That's your extended sleeve piece. So we're going to get out, we're cutting it out. To make a typical coat, if you use a nice quality top fabric and a nice lining that has a nice weight, you won't have to cut out a third layer. But sometimes third layer is better. Sometimes the top fabric is not that sturdy, or some high fashion fabrics definitely need another lining under it. So at this point, we're going to go over all the pieces that should be cut out. This is your collar piece with the lining piece. This is your back piece with the lining piece cut on fold. Your outer fabric, your lining. This is your front panel, both of your front panels and both 2 pieces of lining. Oh, I told you making a body service. They don't look right off. And this is the sleeve, both of them cut out. And both lines. So now what you need to do is separate them, with the pins. Connect everything to its lining piece individually. So we're going to pin both of the sleeves to the sleeve line. Be sure you don't point them corners. They'd be the main thing, so you don't want that to be uneven. So when you be lining up these lining pieces, especially sometimes with different fabrics, they cut different, so make sure everything's cut right. But getting them corners, so them corners be even, lined up, could be a trouble spot. You don't want your corners knocking at you. Since they mirror pieces, they work. That's why I don't like the pieces that come with the pattern when it has them shorter, because they always give me trouble. So I just figured out a way for my techniques. You got it. So yeah. Same thing with this. So you're going to do that with all your pieces. So you're going to do that with the sleeve, front panels. Right, when you think about all the process it takes you to create this, I had to charge accordingly. Puffer work is definitely the word. Tips up. I got one of the kind of fabrics that's simple. I mean, they remind of that natural, like wrinkly effect. Yeah. This piece, the collar piece, you can leave as how we cut it out, because the collar piece, you fold it in half and you stuff the inside of it, so you'll have to pin it up. And remember, this is the front facing piece we have, and the front facing piece, we don't need that yet, so I'll keep it to the side. So now we have everything pinned together. We're going to go to the sewing machine, right? And sew. Alright, with the collar piece, you're going to sew all around all four corners. The whole collar piece, you're going to sew it in, so you make it a casing. You put this base stitch around it. Have inch seam allowance, quarter inch seam allowance, whatever you prefer, and sew that together. Then with the back piece, we don't need the collar piece right now, so we can put that to the side. So we're going to go with the back panel. So once you already have it stitched down, remember it's stitched to your lining. You're going to take your ruler, measuring tape, and measure from the top to the bottom. So we got 21, divide, you can do 6, 12, 18, know, that's a little off. It might be 6.5. You know, so you determine where you want to put your lines at. So once you divide that by 2, 3, whatever you would like to do, how many panels you want, you just make your marking. So with this, I usually do like 3. So I'm going to do 6.5 and 12.5. So that's the marking on my panels. To that one. Yeah, I had my trying to sharp with that, but the thing is keeping your line straight. I could line it up. Even if you mess up, the good thing about chalk, you just wipe it off. So you put the lines on your back piece, do that to the side. Your sleeves, when you do your sleeves and your front panels, you need to line them, put them next to each other so they have lines at the same place. You know what I'm trying to say? Yes. So I believe these was made to 26, yeah. Like 8.5, 8.5, 16.5. Divide it, just make your lines. That's it. So no matter where you want to make it, you do 10 panels if you like. I just want them to be the same. So if you decide to do 10, so you do the one thing on one, make sure you follow it on the other. So they the same. So that's another tip. So I'll be making these coats. Follow what you do on one with the other, because you're the one creating a code. And if you start duplicating it, saying you're going to produce the same thing, write it down if you can't remember. I apologize. I'm going to show y'all a quick and easy trick. On the front panels, you do not chalk the lines yet. We're going to sew the front 2 panels together. Error, I apologize, you guys. Easy trick. So we're going to sew both of the front panels together first before we chalk the front panels. So do not chalk the front panels yet. We're going to sew both of the front panels together first, and then we'll move on. So just pay attention. I got you. But I forgot to add that part. I got so caught up in making a tutorial, I just kept going. I do not chalk the front panels until I sew them together first, so we can make sure the front panel lines match up perfectly. I got you. Here's a visual on how the front should look sewn together. Now we're back from the sewing machine. You should have sewn both of your front pieces together. So now you have it like one. So this is going to make it real easy for you, right? When you make that line across on your pieces, you're going to do them on the same part. So then you just use a seam ripper and separate the seam. So it's like no guessing game, none of that. Because see how the lines off a little bit, that one low, that one right? So this going to be on the line. You take that, follow that back out, that side, take it, follow it on that side. And when you come down here, where the line is right there. So you can use this a little off. So my lines would have, I think I'm going to bring it up a little bit more, yeah. Smidgen. It's a body scoop, so I may be getting rid of some of that bottom. And that line over, and you got it. Now we're going to take all our pieces we just took chalk and take them to the sewing machine and sew them across. We're going to sew every piece where you put the line at, the chalk at. Every piece. Sew across. Oh, this is the collar. You don't need the collar. I'll sew across. So take all those pieces to the sewing machine. So now we're at the sewing machine. Remember I said we're going to take each piece and sew across. So, yeah. line. Next panel. So straight across. Right on the line. Back piece. And done. See. See how easy that is? So right across the line. Don't lock the stitches in because we don't want your panties popping out. Yes, please lock them. See, just like that. Same thing on this line. Straight across. Bottom the same. Having them bobbins ready. These puffers, bubble boots, you know, you be sewing and putting out these things because it's a lot of work processes. Alright, same thing over here. Same line. Here we go, same line. Front piece, we want straight across, right? Front piece, straight across. Same thing, right? Straight across. So now then take your seam ripper, right? Now open that seam up, that front seam back up. We just put in seam ripper, open it, make sure y'all can see it, back up. So now you open that seam back up, right? Take his piece back to the machine and complete that stitch we just broke. You know, so you know where it broke at, where we open the seam back up. So you go back on that same seam line, and where you see it's interrupted or ugly, whatever, you sew it right there, lock that in. Ooh, so your panties are messed up. Same thing for the next one. There we go. On that same seam, lock down, and be done. At this point, all lines should be sewn into your puffer jacket. Let's get it back to the table and wipe our chalk lines away and get ready for the next part. Let's go. Let's go back to the table. Now we back. Get one of your scraps, wet it, make sure you wring it out good, and we can get rid of the chalk lines. We're going to get into stuffing. I use different types of stuffing, so I mean, it's up to you. Fiberfill, Polyfill. All of them have different textures. So I'm going to go over a few, what I use and how I stuff and what works for me. And then hopefully you'll be able to figure out what you would like to use. Well, I'm getting this one ready. Like most of them come very compressed. And this is polyester, so it's like a recycled fiber. So I definitely try to use that. So, you know, like try to save the earth a little bit. Why not use a recycled fiber? It's going inside of a coat. It still be warm, so it doesn't prevent anything unless your client's someone that needs like that Versace inside stuffing, you know. So you always can buy goose feathers. You know, they're expensive, but, you know, your client pays how she pays. So, you know, your wish is my demand and desire. But for me, I use the polyfill, okay? You know, I use the filling. So it's different types. I just opened that one because it definitely be compressed, so I need to fill out. So we're going to go over the first one. This is Fiberfill, my Polyfill Premium. They're not that expensive. This is the one that's like $2.99. It's the needle art one. It's the cheaper round if you're on a budget, but it definitely is a little more clumpy. So for me, I can use, you can get away with it if you're using a structured fabric, like more of a brocade or a heavier fabric, because you can hide like the lumpiness in it, because it reminds you of, you ever get a pillow that's like real squishy or a plush toy? This was just used for like a real squishy plush toy, so it definitely doesn't hold form real sturdy, if that makes sense. Then you can say we have the classic Fiberfill, another polyester, all hypoallergenic, but this one is more stiff. It gives you more of that stiff cotton, you know, like a hard teddy bear. I love this one. I love that type of Fiberfill because it lets me add a structure, so when you put it in something, it definitely holds the form. You see how this is a ball? That one was more like a fluff, like a cloud. This one gives you more. So Fiberfill, like, is my thing. There's tons of brands, you know, that has it. You know, you can even find it in black. I buy it in black sometimes, depends on the fabric. What you want to do is the same texture. It holds form. You know, it's not expensive at all. Probably like $5, $6 a bag. When you're making a coat, I think it wasn't. I was overstuffing the coats. So once you get the shape that you need, I'll go over the shaping. You definitely will figure out how much you need in it. So one bag is sufficient per coat. So when you're doing your pricing,
Correction, you need 2 bags per coat.
All of that in your fabric costs, your Fiberfill costs, your closure costs, your rib knits for your cuffs, your sleeves, everything that you put in it. Make sure you include all that because everything costs, and you want it to make it enjoyable, because at first when I first started creating coats, you know, you be so excited about creating them, you didn't know how to price or budget or do things, so it was kind of, you was working for like pennies on a dollar. So no pennies on a dollar, baby. When you get this skill and this craft, you charge accordingly. It's your time, your energy, and don't let nobody tell you nothing different. Yes, so let's go into stuffing a piece. I'm going to give you a visual, so y'all be ready for part 2 of this video, because part 2 is, yes, the right thing, so y'all can be right, and it gets you all the way to the end of completing this coat. So once I get the Fiberfill and I take it out the packaging, I kind of play with it to like pull it apart to make sure it's kind of even. And when I'm stuffing a piece, I put in, so you can see that piece. If you look at it, you can see if that's the shape. Like if you're looking at the back, you can see if you want it more round, if you want it bubble, you'll play with it. So you can know if you want more stuffing inside, if you want less stuffing inside. It's your coat. It depends on the shape that you're trying to get. So, you know, you can see it like it's in there if it's enough. That's all you're doing. You're going in, and the key is make sure when you get to those corners, you're making sure your stuffing goes in them corners. But it don't have to be filled to the point, because remember, when you connecting at the seams at the corners, the stuffing doesn't have to be at that seam. So just make sure your finger can be able to pinch. Don't stuff it to the point, because when I first started, I used to stuff to the point. So when you had to put a zipper or anything on there, it was crazy. Cotton was getting stuck in there, all that. So Majeeda making sure you don't have to go through all them headaches that I went through. So you know you're going to stuff. Get all your pieces stuffed. So before you get to the part 2 of the video, all your pieces should be cut out, stitched together. The puffer line should be in there. All the pieces should be stuffed and secured. Then you'll be ready for part 2. But before we go in there, the great thing about having to redo this video is I'm going to go into some trials and errors of what I went through and show you for. I found another coat I had in storage. You know, a coat I made, probably made, if not last year, 2 years ago. And the coat structure is still clean, you know, with the interface. You're not going to talk, and that's like pockets that I create The structure of the coat is still clean, nice. The collar is not as big that the pattern gave me, so I love the new collar that the pattern gave me, everything. But I'm going to tell you the difference, the great thing about what the pattern gave me. The pattern gave me a consistent shape. So sometimes as a freestyler, you know, it was great, but then I think that's why I didn't really sell things unless I freestyled them, because how can you reproduce something if you kind of freestyled the design and you ain't sure how it's going to come out? So at least you have a consistent shape. You're going to know the shape and how it's going to come out, because with this pattern, you already have that. And with different sizes, so you don't have to try to scale your shape, your pattern you already done made, or scale your design up and down, because you have that. And number two, that facing part, it gave you a structure, because see, what used to happen is, without that front facing in the inside, because it gives you, like, say this was that front facing piece, it gives you the top, the bottom, and that extra lining. So when you put your snaps in, it gives you that extra security, or your zipper. And when you put your zipper in, it sandwich all that in, and it be so clean. So I appreciate that front facing piece in the inside that was in there, because Miss Tab used to try to explain it to me about, like, when I made my coats. I just didn't understand what she was meaning, because I mean, I never used facing. Yeah, let me go into another coat. These are coats I use making using this pattern. Excuse my little rhinestone coming off, but it's not finished yet. But this is a coat I'm creating. I'm in the process. It's almost done. What up is, when I first used the pattern, I didn't extend the sleeve. I had to add a fabric, a 2-inch band in this sleeve, if you can see it, so you know it'll be able to flex. But I use Lycra on this jacket because it's for artists. They move a lot, so I try to use that Lycra under the arm and that band. So I'm showing you this, so if your jacket, if you want to add Lycra or anything and you're scared of that, that's something that saves your life, that gives you that extra stretchiness. And this girl was created at the full length. So this is the full length of the pattern, how it comes, how she was created and be around. You know I love PVC. I didn't put the cuffs on it yet. This is the collar. This is everything fully from that pattern. It's an amazing pattern. The facing is not on yet, which would be of that same fabric. This is, I didn't serge the pocket, but that's a handmade pocket, you know what I mean? I use a different type pockets. I just learned wealth pockets too, so you know it pulls out, same fabric. You know, you can figure out what pockets work for you, but they're the simplest pockets that I found for me. Yeah, so that's just it. I was just giving y'all 2 examples what I use, do's and don'ts.
At this point, you should be stuffing all your pieces, your collar pieces, your both sleeves, both front panels, your back panel. So everything should be getting stuffed with your polyfill, so you can take it to the machine and close everything up. You're casing your whole jacket kind of like a pillow. So that's what you need to be doing now.
Now we back from the machine again. We should have all the seams sewn together, so nothing should be out. If you got any strings, get rid of them. Chalk, get rid of them. Anything. So this one you should be checking everything. So you should be done with your filling. Nothing should be able to get out. All the sides are sewn together, kind of like pillows, and then you got to put your puzzles together. Sleeves, other one. All of them are sewn together. Collar. I serge my pieces, so I don't put another lining, because with the serger I'll just clean up the edges and stitch it together. But I'm gonna have a video linked in for you guys if you're putting a lining in. That one that you can use for a resource that I like, that explained it pretty simple. At this point, everything should be stitched together. You should be great, and then get ready for video 2. So we got this far. Congratulations. Let's go.
One more part. So now we're going to attach the front and the back panels. So we're going to attach the front to the back panels by the shoulders. And after you attach the front to the back panel by the shoulders, you'll attach the collar at the neckline. Leave the rest of the jacket as is, because on video 2, you'll see where we'll pick up right at this part. And pay attention to the video. And the video on video 2 starts off, so pause it and do what it do. I hope this got you where you need to be.